Live from the internet and recorded on March 28, 2019, this is the Crystal Chronicle, the number one top-rated official, unofficial, fan favorite, Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. I might have mentioned it, if not, this is episode 48. My name is Pierre. I am joined tonight by two co-hosts. That would be Mino. Good evening, Mino.
Good evening, Pierre.
And unfortunately, the Cydians and Twitchers, Mark is not with us tonight, but fortunately, the great Kriese is joining us well, you can't replace Mark. I mean, he's unreplaceable, but he's going to do his best. Good evening, Kriese.
Good evening. I am not trying to replace Mark at all.
I don't think Mark can be replaced, so that's it. Mark is in good health and everything. He just had obligations that could not be pushed aside for this great podcast. So that's what it is. So how was your week, gentlemen?
Chris?
It was pretty good. I mean, everything kind of went crazy yesterday when the awakening waves dropped, and I think everyone got a little surprised that very few people expected ahead of time. And the stream, despite the hiccups with the stream itself, the announcements were pretty good to hear. So overall, it's been pretty fun.
For me, DFFOO has had a crazy week, which this whole show will be about. But personally wise, I finished a big project, so I have a lot more free time now. It's like a giant burden's been lifted off my shoulder. How about you, Pierre? How's your week been?
Just the usual work and kids kind of thing. So just another busy week for us. My son had something at school about every night this week, so it felt like the entire day started very early and ended very late, and there was not much in between except sleep. So it's one of these weeks. Um, all right, let's see. So, as you were saying, the Square Enix mobile stream has happened. A lot of things were announced. We were kind of teasing gently on this on pre-show about how it was not as much as a stream as a PowerPoint presentation. Uh, so
If
basically,
you were lucky, it was a PowerPoint presentation. I got one frame every 20 minutes or 20 seconds or something. It was crazy.
really, it was that bad?
I was trying to stream
really
from
bad.
mobile, but it was bad.
Oh,
Even on desktop, it was pretty terrible. But it was my favorite Square Enix stream so far because they gave us all the rewards. They didn't do any co-ops. I didn't have to sit through an hour of co-ops, and they just told us all the news in 15 minutes. So thumbs up for me.
um, hate 13 on Twitch says, yeah, it wasn't frames per second. It was seconds per frame. So, oh boy. And yeah, so basically, as part of the announcements, they said that 2 times the cycle quest rewards were coming back. I believe they're in the game right now, right?
Yes.
So, I believe pretty much of everything we're about to mention is already in there. Heretic Quest solo first, co-op is coming on April 1st. Anything that flashed your fancies when you heard about the Heretic Quests?
Oh no, not again after the last Heretic Quest challenge. I mean, they were completable, but challenging to get the score requirements for, so I'm a little hesitant going into these. I haven't actually tried them out yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, I guess I'll be doing the walkthrough, although Mark usually does a much better job. Um, I'm always down for Heretic quests. I agree with a small amount of players in the community that these are the most fun challenges the game can give you because it takes a little more. It's several fights, all with different gimmicks, and it forces you to think about your team because they get locked out. Like, I think this is the most fun content for hardcore players right now in the game.
Unless you want to throw your face against Deus Ex longer.
See, an X fight can be frustrating. This is variety. I liked it, and a wider variety of synergy instead of just 3 characters.
Fair enough. 8 characters for this makes it a lot friendlier as far as synergy goes.
All right. The Awakening Wave 7 and 8 were announced. Now we know that, obviously Awakening 7 is already upon us. We know that Awakening 8 is going to be the final wave. We'll talk about Awakening Wave 7 in just a few minutes. The Cactuar Conundrum is also now live, offering armor and weapon tokens. So it's a fun little event. They talked about the Mariah and Paloom Lost Chapters, the Agrias event. Now something I miss a little bit. You guys want to talk about the Adojas?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kriese.
Adojas are basically 5-star variants of the artifacts we can currently farm, which the big benefit is that you have a much higher chance of 2-star passives appearing on them, which makes the
They
farming and
actually
grinding
do
for the
happen?
artifacts better.
What was that, Pierre?
The double 2-star thing actually do happen? I thought they were like just
Oh,
a
yeah.
rumor or something.
I've never gotten one, I think. Maybe I have one here. No, actually, I've never gotten one. Looking at my character list.
It's like the
Mark,
monster of Loch Ness or something.
but to tell you how significant it is, currently merged Adoga has a 10% chance in an orange. An Adoja has a 50% chance.
Oh, wow.
But other than so they're gonna launch with a World of Illusion to farm it, but after that, the only way to get them is to use bells and co-op. So it's gonna be a lot of co-op farming for people who really care about artifacts.
We also do not know who the Idojas are going to be for. They said, 8 out of the 12 will be up for community vote soon?
Is that the number? I was gonna ask you, and that's why I let you introduce it, because I wasn't sure how many were gonna be up for a vote and how many were set in stone.
I thought they were not doing votes anymore.
They weren't doing votes for character releases, but apparently they're allowing it for this. And it is
Okay,
harmless,
here's
I
the
guess.
number. It is a community event to decide 10 of the Idoja effects that appear, and it'll be split across 2 waves. One from the 18th to the 25th, and a second wave from the 25th to May 2nd. So not all of them will be available at the same time, and the community will have a choice in 10 of them.
Do we know who are the 2 characters that it's set in stone?
Nope, no clue. They did not say anything else about it.
Huh.
I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna bet that it's the 2 characters that get their EX because it launches with the Last Awakening wave, right?
Okay.
Got to be that.
All right. And Lightning's costume, aka probably the most anticipated costume since, I don't know, Terra?
It's her Knight of Metro costume from Final Fantasy 13 too. It's pretty iconic for her at this point.
So am I getting this right? Are we only getting 1 costume this month? Are they slowing it down?
I don't know. Are they running out of costumes to give out? I'm not sure.
Kind of, but so they last stream, I'm not mistaken, they did announce 2 costumes, right?
They did announce 2 costumes. Ace was
Hidden.
not shown, and
Yeah.
who's the first one?
Vaughn, right?
I don't
Was
remember.
it Vaughn?
Oh yes, it was Vaughn. Vaughn came with the Awakening Wave, and Ace appeared later with Deuce Event.
So if they really are slowing down the costumes, which they should because they are running out, but if they are, that means I get to spend less a month. But it also means I should capitalize on that sale and try 2 more pulls for Thancred EX. So I'm gonna go do that.
If for those of you only in audio mode, I'm major face palming right now because while you're at it, you guys want to talk about what happened last night with Mino getting out of control and the stream yelling at him for a whole different reason than last week?
Sure, Kriese. You tell the story.
So we started up the stream around when the Awakening Wave dropped, and Square had just announced on Twitter that Thancred EX was coming, and it was available, and I pulled for it and got it within 2 multi-pulls. Mino tried to get it and did not get it within 4 multi-pulls, so he decided he was going to buy gems with his screen shown on stream, and I basically had to call him off the ledge before he announced his credit card information to the entire world.
To be fair, I was very drunk at the time. And also
We decided an hour or two before it started. And how did you drink that much?
hard alcohol for over an hour, that it hits pretty fast. But for those wondering about what stream we're talking about, Kriese had a great idea yesterday that we would both, since Kriese was going to be guest starring on the show and we were going to be comparing notes on the awakening wave, we would go on yesterday. We each awakened half the wave and tested them out in all three co-ops that were up to get a better understanding of the characters, which worked out very good. And then we're not going to record it a podcast or anything. It's going to be up on our Twitch archive for about a week. But if you want to go in and hear some juicy gossip between me and Dawn of the GL community, Shara89 or whatever, it's going to be up temporarily. So there's that.
It's also a very, very long stream from what I hear. I ducked out after about 2 hours and Mino kept going.
Yeah. I auto farm. It was just me auto farming crystals for an hour, and at the end, and Sharon and I were just talking. So,
All right, definitely a moment for the archive. So, let's see. All right, so moving on. Awakening Wave 7. So again, as with all awakenings, a character of each color. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's only one of each.
they
There's
doubled
actually
up on
2
white.
whites.
Yeah, 2 whites. I was counting and I'm like, nah, that doesn't make sense. So there's Vanille, Edge, Galuf, Ico, Seymour, King, and Baltier. With the Seymour's EX being released. So we're going to do what we always do. We're going to cover them one by one. Kriese will give us his impression of how the characters are better or worse or no big change. So starting with our favorite LC after a whole bunch of them, Vanille.
Okay, so Vanille, she gets a decent amount with her awakening. She gets abilities to trigger HP attacks after both Protect and Dispel if she's able to get her Brave above 80% max Brave, which helps a lot for her efficiency, or turn efficiency. She also gets 2 more uses of Protect and 1 more use of Dispel from her extensions. Gets a pretty massive boost to her max Brave, while an enemy's debuff from her passive, small boost to speed. She provides a party aura of 20% plus attack, 20% max Brave while the enemy's debuffed. And she also gets much, much better debuffs from Protect now, with her now having the best defense down in the game again at minus 80%. So keep that in mind. You need to cripple an enemy's defense and they're not immune to it. Vanille will do a great job.
But isn't there actually a lot more bosses that are actually immune to defense down nowadays that we've had in the past?
Yup.
We keep going through phases
Okay.
where back at the beginning of January, we had bosses that were being immune to a bunch of debuffs like Selfie and Gilgamesh events. And then we had a wave in February where debuffs were not as big a deal again, and debuffs were okay. And now we're starting to hit a wave now, starting with DCX, where enemies are starting to show up with resistances or immunities to certain debuffs, with Deus Ex being the big example where it's immune to defense down and speed down, which is exactly why I'm not going to recommend most people take Vanille to Deus Ex hoping to get that high score. It hurts her usability to not be able to apply that massive defense down. Not to say she is not useless, the attack down's still really big, that'll stick. She also provides a huge amount of party battery now. Protect raises party brave by 30% of her max brave now, and Dispel, obviously with her 35 CP, provides brave to the party based on damage dealt. Along with that, she also gets some longevity with a Brave Attack Plus, which deals extra damage to debuffs targets, and an HP Attack Plus, which raises her Brave before an HP attack. Overall, a relatively solid kit, and it makes her great in instances where she can debuff opponents and take advantage of that.
Cool.
All right.
Anything to add, Mino?
Yeah, so we are gonna go back and forth, me and Kriese, to like we did last time. That went pretty well. Was ranking each character we're in the awakening wave itself.
Yeah, I think we're gonna
So,
do that at the end, though. No?
oh no, we're just gonna do it after every character, really quick, I think.
Oh,
But
sure.
what I wanted to, I mean, Kriese covered everything. I was gonna say If you compare her to all the debuffers, I think she's second place out of the debuffers out of 3. If her competition is Ferris and Balthier, because Balthier usually is only good if there's unique buffs to steal, and then we'll get to him in a second.
You mean
But
Dispeller, right?
yeah, what did I say?
Debuffer.
Damn. All right, Dispeller. But I don't think you can beat Ferris because Vanille strips 3 buffs from each enemy with her Dispel, and that's it. But Ferris can strip all enemies from all their buffs and then throw on 4 debuffs. So, when it comes to pure Dispeller, I don't think Vanille wins, but her battery is really good, and her Brave Shave is really strong if the target is debuffable. I always do some minus points for debuffers because, as Pierre brought up, as we move forward, enemies immune to generic debuffs are going to become more and more common. Like we said, Deuce EX ignores half of the debuffs, and even in the Heretic event, there's a boss that resists all the generic debuffs. Uh, debuffers are always conditional moving forward in JP. There's just so many bosses that will resist it, and debuffers will be completely useless there. And her HP triggers on 80% max brave on both her abilities, which is also conditional. But her battery's strong, and you can't underestimate her debuffs and dispel. So I think I rated her second place.
5DPZ is asking, he says, so how much more damage for the team after minus 8% defense? It's definitely not 5 times the damage. How is it calculated? You guys have any insight on that?
Yeah, Cloud Banner guy. So the all debuffs rely on the enemy's stats. So 80% attack down means a lot more to an enemy that has 5,000 attack stat than like 1,000 attack stat. And defense works the same way. We'll pull up the official damage formula for the game. We'll put it in the show notes and our Discord server. But you can see how it's calculated. And the answer to your question is basically it depends on how much defense the enemy has. So if you use it against a turtle, it'll be crippling. But if you use it against, say, a mannequin, it'll do next to nothing.
All right, let's move on to our favorite Final Fantasy IV ninja, Edge.
Oh, wait. So, but before that, Kriese, did you want to give your ranking really quick?
Yes, my ranking for Vanille, with 1 being the best and 7 being the worst, for Vanille is 3. So
pretty
middle of the
highly
pack,
ranked.
better than middle of the pack.
Yeah, because batteries are still very strong, and her debuffs are still very strong when they stick, I think.
Cool.
You'll
But
see that it's a theme with this Awakening wave that a lot of these characters are more situational than most of the other Awakening waves, which means that I'm fudging it a little bit on rankings. Some characters more situational, I'm ranking better just because I think when they're in their right situation, they do better than other characters do generally.
That makes sense.
okay. So,
Edge.
Edge, Kriese, you want to give us the Awakening description for those?
Yes, Edge gets huge changes. First of all, Shock more uses, Smoke more uses. Shock becomes an HP attack now, so along with going from 1 hit, it goes to 3 hits. It now triggers an HP attack after every use. It gives him a Max Brave up buff to help with his poor Max Brave. He has passives to raise his own Max Brave and attack while he's buffed, and he also provides some party utility by raising the party's attack while the Teachings of Evelyn buff is up. Smoke, it doesn't change much. It gets a little better. The big thing here is that Teachings of Evelyn now lasts a lot longer. He now triggers an HP attack after Smoke is used, and he gets a Brave attack plus after use, which is pretty nice. He still has the problem where his Provoke is 1 turn, his Evasion up is only 2 turns, and if you're facing an opponent that does AoE Brave plus HP attacks, that can screw you pretty hard in some cases, because the damage gets redistributed to the 2 targets that do not dodge it. So, all in all, he becomes a pretty decent damage dealer that has to lean a little bit on magic and thunder typing, but he can't lean too heavily on it because he doesn't have infinite number of uses, and his Brave attack is still melee typed.
So, what is your conclusion? What is your ranking here?
I place Edge at 5 because
5. That's pretty low.
Yeah. Edge isn't that good, but he does have the situational use of if you're dealing with a lot of single target attacks and you know they're coming, he can dodge them and he will just ignore damage for a turn or two. Especially with that provoke up, it's pretty strong, but again, it's situational.
Yeah, like you said, this whole wave is situational. It was really hard doing all the placements other than first place here, and we'll talk about how every character is situational here, and they can get shut out with the wrong enemies. For Edge, it's we're seeing an increasing amount of AOE Brave plus HP attacks, which really gimp Edge because when he dodges, everyone else takes the full brunt and takes even more damage than they would normally, which is really terrible to bring him in. But if a fight lacks that, he's pretty amazing. Again, situational. I think I rated him a little higher than Kriese. I remember in JP he was actually one of the winners of this awakening wave, and the reasoning being that the changes to shock actually do very good DPS to any enemy that doesn't resist lightning. And I've used him and I've seen that. And plus, I am a big fan of Smoke Bomb still. The aura buff is a nice touch, but also the fact that even if the enemies are throwing out AoEs, you're still reducing incoming damage as long as it's not a Brave plus HP. And the 2 turns of evade everything gives him if if any enemy's ever targeting Edge, that buys your whole team a turn each to dump Brave. I think that's really valuable. In the right situations, he's great. I think I ranked him 4, so pretty close to Kriese, but I gave him a little more credit.
All right. Nobody's favorite Final Fantasy V old man, Galuf. What's new with Galuf, Kriese?
Caliph gets pretty nice changes too. More uses on cover. Cover now turns into a battery ability, which is pretty nice. So if you remember cover, its basic version, he covers a single ally. They get a small boost to attack. He takes hits for them. Now he provides a party boost to, or he just provides party brave. Another big change is that he now also provides a max brave up for the party, which is another nice thing. He has a pretty low max brave, his passives help with that, and he also provides a buff that some characters can use. Cover Plus, same thing, hasn't changed too much, just a pretty nice battery on top of it. He now has a attack aura for the party, small attack boost to the party once he masters an ability, which both his abilities take only 1 turn. That's nice. Blade block extension now makes him trigger an HP attack 1 after using blade block, and now makes it that his counter attacks while using blade block. So when he's evading attacks, he now triggers HP attacks there too. Along with this, he also gets a really nice HP attack plus ability that hits decently hard, 100% of attack, followed by an HP attack. So overall, he makes out pretty well. He basically goes back to King physical tank again.
Rating?
I rank Galuf at 4. He's still middle of the pack because he's situational. A lot of bosses right now are using magic attacks, and Galuf does not work in that environment.
Interesting. Our ratings are close, but definitely different across the board. Galuf, I think the name of the game going forward soon is going to be free turns and action economy. And I think Galuf has a ton of it because he gets a Brave plus HP after every counter in the right situation, like Kriese said. Like a lot of people are saying on stream, I was also pleasantly surprised by using him yesterday, and I noticed a lot of things that I wouldn't have without the practical experience, such as even his cover will even take the magic damage. He won't dodge it, but his defense is so high that even if he takes it, he reduces it significantly. So he's still a good tank in all situations other than AoE. As long as it's single target, he's still drastically reducing the damage he does. But to have a max brave aura, to have a unique attack buff, and to just keep generating brave for the entire team, because his cover generates like about the same amount as Wall's shield. So he's a little more effective than Warrior of Light right now, I would say. And so to give all these buffs and all this battery just by covering and doing his thing, he's like an autopilot character. You know, he's dumping all his brave whenever the enemy acts. He doesn't really have to do anything himself. And I thought it was really strong. Again, I can't oversell the unique attack buff that stacks with generic ones. I gave him a third place for this wave.
Yeah, Galoof's pretty strong, but again, he has the same issue of Edge, where if he dodges an AoE Brave plus HP, he can end up with dead allies very fast, which can cause some problems. Luckily, again, a lot of the AoE Brave plus HP attacks we're seeing are magic, so he won't actually dodge them, but again, you have to keep that in mind.
So you rated him third and Kriese?
4.
4, okay.
Sorry, Dekrith on Twitch, he says, I want to add in, don't forget a lot of magic bosses have physical HP attacks, so Galoof can still be useful for magic-based bosses. Deuce EX is a prime example, he says.
Fair
Cool.
enough.
Cool. Aiko.
Aiko, I mean, I think everyone knows Aiko. She was a very popular support back in the 50 era. She was on about 50 billion banners back during the summer.
Yep,
So
everyone
many.
most
had her
definitely.
weapons. So everyone had her weapons.
Veterans
It
have
was
no
not hard to get them.
excuse not to have Aiko, I gotta say.
Anyways, what does she get? She gets a small party aura for a max brave and attack while buffed, which she's always buffed because her buffs last a long time. She has a pretty big increase to her max brave and int brave while buffed, just from passives, which helps. Her HB regen provides more brave based on int brave. One of the big changes for Aiko is that her turn efficiency goes way up. HP regen triggers an HP attack. Smite now triggers an HP attack. Her buffs on HP regen have gone up to 40% each, so her attack up and max brave up are plus 40% from, I think it was 20 or 10% before. So pretty big boost. Smite, as I said, triggers an HP attack. It's still stuck at 1 hit, but she batteries for so much after that I was still capping during some fights just from the 1 hit, even though she was closer to 20k max brave in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, she gets some more longevity, HP attack plus. She heals an HP attack. She heals damage to the party based on the damage dealt. So if her HP regen isn't keeping up, you can try building up her brave and then dumping it in an HP plus. She gets a brave attack plus, which is a party battery based on her attack stat. So Aiko, more than ever, wants more attack so she can battery. And she basically has become a lot better at her job. She brave shaves, she batteries, and she can provide some healing. And she does that very well now.
Rating?
1. I rank her number 1 for this wave.
Yeah, I don't think anyone didn't rank her number 1 for this wave, but there's so much to talk about when it comes to Aiko. Just before the show, there was such a heated debate in our Discord about how viable Aiko was. A lot of people are comparing her to Kate Sith, which I think is a valid comparison, to be honest. They both have a Brave Plus the batteries. They both provide a huge attack and max Brave up buffs. They both have a HP regen. You know, they're very similar. There's very small differences between them, like Kate Sith being more melee. Aiko's tied to Holy, which kind of gives her if anyone resists that. But there is so much going on with her kit. A lot of people are speaking up in chat right now, which we'll address. But they're saying Aiko, with her auras and her buffs, gives a total of 60% attack and 60% max brave, which is more than Kate Sith gives. They say that even without her buffs, she has the aura going at all times, which Kate Sith doesn't have, and the brave plus, because the problem with smite was how gives brave based on how much damage is done, but if someone resists that, the brave plus is a flat increase based on attack, so that's also a very great improvement. She's still the queen of heals over time. You know,
Until
her buffs.
Lost Chapter.
Right. But that's a ways off. That's a ways off for now. But she's right now. We're talking about the present. She's the queen of heals over time. Her buffs still last forever. They last longer than Kate Sith. And when there is a holy weakness or a magic weakness, she will hit a lot harder and even more HP over time with HP plus. Like she's the queen of brave over time, HP over time. As long as it's a long fight, like these heretic fights, she's extremely valuable. And it's easier to dump her brave because her HP attack triggers on both abilities no matter what. Whereas Kate Sith only has one ability that triggers the HP. It has overflow though, but it also has a conditional of hitting max brave. So um, I found Eiko to be the far superior battery, maybe even a great replacement for Selfie. I don't know if people are going to correct me on this, but I think
I mean, Selfie, again, still has the advantages of providing that wall buff that is unique to her. She just ignores damage and turns it into a battery for herself. So I think in places where you have to be more defensive and less offensive, Selfie will still shine quite well.
that's a good point. But I think that pure battery uses, if you combine all the uses of her skills, her Brave Plus, she is the longest lasting battery. And
yeah, I would agree with that. Eiko lasts a very long time with her awakening. If you're running out of ability uses and you're playing conservative with Eiko, you're probably just not gonna kill the boss in time.
yeah, and I've taken her through the Heretics and even Deuce EX to test her, and the turn efficiency is just right there because she can battery a huge amount of the team and dump that brave right away. So her turn efficiency is better than Selfies and Kate Sif's, I'd say, because they need some time to build up their battery and then dump. She does it constantly every turn. As long as the enemy is not targeting her, she's golden. So I give her first place out of the 7. I think that's a unanimous between me and Kriese.
813 on Twitch says that she's the Energizer Summoner. I like that.
That's a good way to call her. I mean, she provides so much battery, and she's technically a summoner. She isn't that in this game, but she's supposed to be one.
All right, so
Wait for her
far
X.
you guys have rated pretty highly the characters, so I'm kind of scared because we only have 3 left, and you guys are about to take out the garbage. So let's move on. Seymour, whose EX, by the way, has been released as part of this Awakening wave. So please don't tell me Seymour sucks.
I am going to talk about Seymour 1. I'll talk about what his Awakening does, and then I'll talk about what his EX does. And
Great
note
idea.
that my rank for him will be in the context of you have his EX weapon equipped. Because he came with it came with his Awakening. He's kind of being built around it, and without it, he kind of sucks, is what I'm going to tell you. Straight up, you want Seymour's EX, because he just doesn't work without it, I think. So, what does Seymour get? He gets passives, which raises his attack and max brave while buffed. He gets another passive, which further raises his attack and slightly raises his speed while an enemy is debuffed. So he needs both buffs and debuffs to get his passives active. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Advantage of that is that it means that on trash waves, he can still get some of his passives active without having to rely on getting debuffs up, which helps. It's pretty nice. Not great, but better than other characters like Thancred, who relies only on debuffs in that case. Anyways, his extensions, Chain Spell, gets much stronger now. It can now trigger an HP attack if his Brave goes above 80% max Brave. One of the big things this does, though, is it also afflicts a initial Brave down debuff on the target, which means that Seymour, with both of his abilities, is now up to 4 debuffs applied. Int Brave, Attack down, Defense down, and Max Brave down, which is not bad. It's pretty good. It also means he has a good chance of sticking at least one of those debuffs on a target. Chain Spell Extension also gives him a Brave Attack Plus, which will do bonus damage to weakness damage to enemies that have debuffs on them. Lance of Atrophy, extension increases the potency a little bit, but the big thing it does is makes his debuffs better. His debuffs don't go up to Ferris levels of debuff potency, but they're much better now at minus 40% to the stats it inflicts. Attack down, defense down, and max brave down. The other thing it does is, instead of increasing the potency a lot, if the target is below 50% of their max HP, he will trigger a chain spell free cast after the use of Lance of Atrophy. So he dumps his Brave, and then he does another cast where he can fill his Brave and potentially dump it again, which is not bad. But again, the big thing here is Seymour's still stuck to 12 ability uses between Chain Spell and Length of Atrophy, which has been the case for a while. And even with that Brave Attack plus, it's not enough to really increase his longevity, which brings in his EX weapon. While it's a recast slow, it is an AoE attack. It does bonus damage to debuffed enemies. It provides him a special framed buff, which the worst part about it is it has to stack up 3 times, called Seymour's Repose, which gives him special bonuses to attack, max Brave, and can increase Brave Overflow on the Requiem spell. So he gets his EX is the only reason he's going to work right now, because he needs it to get those stat increases to be the damage dealer he needs to be, and to keep his longevity going well past when it should fall off because his ability uses are just so low. Seymour is good because he has an X, but that's the only reason he's good, in my opinion. I'm ranking him at 2 just because he has an EX and most of the
2?
do not.
That is high. Wow. Okay. I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, that's not what I was expecting in terms
me
of
too,
score.
right? Like the way Kriese was talking, it sounded
like even
I
the
know
chat
was
was tearing me apart with the whole when I said Seymour, tell me he doesn't suck, and people were totally saying that it was. Yeah, people are not agreeing with you, Kriese. What's your
what a plot twist, Kriese.
I honestly think the EX weapon makes him a lot better than he should be otherwise.
What's the recast?
He can get up to 200%. It's ranked to slow before any of the limit breaks, so it gets to about Squall levels of recast speed, which isn't bad. It's not great. It's not bad.
Okay. Well, I'm going in the complete opposite direction with this. We talked about conditional. Seymour, I feel like, is Sabin 2.0 when it comes to crippling over specialization. You look at his potency increases from his extensions, they are tiny. 10 to 20% tops. That is some Awakening Wave 1 potency increases. And they try to justify it by saying, if the enemy's debuffed, he'll hit a lot harder. But like I said, moving forward, these debuff immune enemies are going to start coming out of the woodwork non-stop. And Seymour's damage against an enemy that cannot be debuffed is complete garbage. It's really bad. Shara wanted to share some thoughts because he pulled a Seymour EX and ran him through Heretics. And he says that with synergy, with the EX, he completed the Heretics EX, but the whole time he thought Seymour was actually dead weight. Even though he had synergy and EX, he thought Seymour was dead weight.
This was a gut check on my part that I think his EX is going to save him, but maybe I'm wrong. I didn't get his EX weapon.
Fair. That's okay. Yeah, but it looks like a lot of people who got the EX are saying the same thing. Like, they notice if the enemy... You said the EX is a unique buff, right, to himself?
Seymour's Repose, yes.
So it's not, he can't provide his own unique debuff. A lot of people, what I've been seeing in Mancol's threads, are pairing him with Ramza for Enervate, or these unique debuffs to try to get some use out of him. So he can't complete his own kit. And another complaint that a lot of Seymour players have been telling me is that the HP 50% HP under 50% to trigger the extra cast. What is it? Dual cast is it's very limiting, extremely limiting. Like, you're saving your ability uses because it's counterintuitive because you want to launch it right away for the debuffs, but the game's telling you to save it until they're under 50% to get that extra boost. And the other thing is that his max brave is so high because he has one of the highest max braves that his dual cast or chain spell will never hit that 80% percentile to unleash his HP attack. So but you're right about the EX making him a lot stronger than he should be. Otherwise, I would have rated him last place. The EX alone, just having the power of an EX, I rate him 6th place out of 7.
So we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and then the thing is that I think someone said in our Discord, and I agree, as this is the age where EXs started becoming crucial, because Seymour EX is right on schedule, and like you said, without the EX, his power is pathetic. And then the next wave was supposed to this wave was supposed to be Seymour and Ramza and JP. And I think we can both agree they both desperately need their EXs, right? It just drastically improves their performance.
Yeah, Ramza gets a pretty massive max Brave boost. He gets another way to dump Brave. He gets another way to battery with his EX. Without it, he just falters.
Yeah, and then the next wave was supposed to be Lightning and Zell. And again, would you say that they're completely reliant on their EXs?
Zell definitely. It increases his turn efficiency immensely. It makes him so much better. It gives him a way to dump Brave without having to spend his special abilities in some certain circumstances. Yeah, it makes him much better.
Right, Lightning as well. It gives her free turns to capitalize on her crappy damage per turn. And so, like, going forward, then you have KUJA and then that whole era. So starting now, every EX is going to be mandatory to make the character even usable. And
So we're
Seymour,
at that
go ahead,
point now.
Pierre.
I said
We are on the cusp of
Hello?
EX weapons being important for the kit.
wow. Because I remember when EX launched, one of the big thing was, you know what, it's great, it's a great add-on, but we're not at the point where they're required. But it seems like we've already reached that point where characters that don't have their EX are going to be left on the bench.
That's true for most of the characters upcoming. Ones that are not built with their EX in mind, such as Barret and Freya, have some usability without their EX weapons. The problem is that most characters we're going to get from now on are built with their EX weapons in mind, which means the developers put more power in the EX weapons.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't need all these, because if you get Seymour EX, he's only going to be good for a very short time anyways. Not all the EX is going to be equal. It's just that if you're a huge Lightning fan, you're going to want that EX. Otherwise, you're unusable. And the one last thing I wanted to say is that Seymour's EX cast isn't that fast, and he needs to stack it up 3 times. It's really inconvenient as well. That's a super slow buildup.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not going to change my rankings because I have it all drafted out, but I think
Oh yeah, of
based
course.
on your argument, I would drop Seymour in the ranks quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to King, and I believe I don't know why. I have a feeling King is going to be less highly ranked than Baltier, right?
We'll see. Actually, I don't know about Kriese. Oh, and Star Shadow says, if Seymour has this problem with debuffs, how is Kefka gonna fare now that I'm thinking of debuffers? Well, Star Shadow, Kefka's EX gives him a unique debuff, and he doesn't have generic debuffs because he has HP Silence, which will always pass through. It's most people are gonna be resisting the generic debuffs like attack, defense, max brave, int brave, speed, etc.
The other thing that they do with Kefka Awakening, if I recall correctly, is they make him a much bigger attacker than he is right now. Right now, he relies on his debuffs to do anything. With his Awakening, he actually becomes a reliable damage dealer.
Yeah, because that definitely was his forte when he got released. So.
Yeah.
Right, so what did King gain, Kriese?
King, what did he gain? He got some passives that increases max brave and attack. He got another passive which increases max brave further on the final wave if his HP is at max, which is a passive that most people saw in their 1 through 50 crystal passives, not their awakenings. He also got more uses of rapid bullets, which it's 2 uses, which turns into actually 6 extra uses of rapid bullets once everything is put into place. Rapid bullets is now stronger. Big thing, rapid bullets buffs actually last longer now. Because he had a 1-turn buff, this means it actually lasts more than 1 turn and he can do stuff in between. And the number of brave hits for rapid bullets goes up by 1, which means that rapid bullets plus the HP attack version now does 2 hits instead of 1. Reload gives him more battery. Trigger happy lasts a lot longer, and it triggers an HP attack upon dump. Basically, what happens is that King does the same thing, except he does it better. He does a lot more damage.
All right.
Manta wanted his voice heard because Manta awakened King and tested him thoroughly. Manta says, take this all with a grain of salt because this was all done in synergy. But pros, King is an amazing Brave Shaver. probably the best single target Brave Shaver we have right now.
Oh wow.
We're gonna talk about Thancred. I think because Thancred came early, he stole that spot. But Monta claims that besides Thancred, King is the strongest Brave Shaver right now. He says he has crazy good speed, gets in more turns for DPS rather than waiting on supports. Really good buff lengths. Trigger happy lasts 18 goddamn turns now. So how many casts of reload is it? It's 2, right? So that's the what, 36 turns of HP pluses, which
And
is really
he has
strong.
8 rapid bullets per reload, which means he can fill that with brave attacks now without dropping buffs, which
Right.
he
So
can
I
actually
mean,
brave up without getting broken if he needs to.
so I mean, I guess you got to give that to King, like super longevity when it comes to range DPS, because he just has so many turns to unload. And then he says super versatile, good for really fast fights where you need to burst, or long fights where you need to spread out your abilities. Cons: low max brave and no overflow means you're capping brave every time and leaking it. But versatility, while listed as strength, is also a weakness. For the sake of balance, if a character is good at everything, you can't be great at anything. And
Story of my
about
life.
and about to be power crept because the next era coming up is the DPS era, and we know King's not going to survive it. But so after all that praise, Monta still says he rates King 5 or 6 place out of 7.
Wow.
I mean, I gotta give him credit where credit's due. He's a strong, straightforward range DPS, and I'm giving him a 5 because he can do his thing no matter what the enemy is. Unlike a lot of the other more conditional, situational characters we've been talking about, Kriese. So I give him a 5 because 9 times out of 10, he's going to be pumping out the same damage and speed no matter what. What about you?
Fair enough. I will also say that during the streams last night, I awakened King, and I'm gonna stipulate my King's not MLB, but he has his 35 CP. It's 1 limit broken. He was only at level 51, but I was actually commenting while I was using him. Is his max brave really that bad? Am I missing passives? I actually thought I did not equip passives correctly when I was running him. Because his max brave was Garbo.
What is it?
And
What did you hit?
I think at level 51, with all awakening passives hits, I was about 10k on the last wave,
Out of
which was pretty
synergy?
bad. That was out of synergy.
That's it's
Again, that was
not
at level
acceptable.
51, so he was missing 9 levels, but still, that was really low, especially
9
considering he
levels
brings his
is
own
like
max brave up.
9
So
levels
I'm
like a
ranking him at
K.
6.
1k more max brave tops. I mean, I think that's the point, is that they're not letting him do too much damage a turn because he can do potentially cap his brave every turn. But oof, yeah. Oh wait, yeah. Next
Yeah,
character.
again, rank 6. He does damage, he does it well, he does it fast. I think the best thing about him is that he's really fast and he dumps damage fast, but
I'm
that's it.
glad
He
that
does nothing else.
our rankings are so different this time. I remember you said last time you, me, and Mark all had pretty much the same rankings.
So, something I did not see coming when we started this, that would be the lowestly ranked character in this Awakening Wave, Baltier.
Did
And
we
I think
both rank
you
him
and I,
last?
yeah, both of us ranked him last.
Walk us through it. Walk us through it.
Okay, so Balthier gets 2 awakening passives that raises stats. One raises attack and speed, one raises max brave. He also gets 3 more uses of his abilities across both extensions. 2 more of Snatshot, 1 more of Great Aim. Snatshot and Great Aim both now are guaranteed to steal buffs when they're used, which is great. You no
If you have
longer
the
have the
weapons, don't
chance.
forget.
Yes, you do need the weapons, but I'm assuming you have weapons for all of this talk.
I wanna slot in. I keep wanting to bring it up, but I forgot. But I really like how recently all the extensions are making the weapons even more valuable. For example, Kriese, you and I talked about Vanille 15 CP. Her extension adds 30% to her debuff potencies if she has the weapon. Normally, before the weapon was 10% down to those stats. Now the weapon adds 30 more percent. So it's amazing how these extensions are increasing the value of these previously crappy weapons, I think.
Yeah. And I think they've gotten a little smarter in allowing for the extensions to accommodate for the weapons, because early awakening passives, I don't think they figured out a way to design around them, and now they can, which I think is the reason this is happening.
Aminosa says adds 40%, not 30. So in the sake of fair and correct
Yeah.
news.
So why is he ranked so poorly in your charts, guys?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't finished breaking him
Oh,
down.
sorry.
Snatch Shot becomes an AoE attack, but it's still one hit. It triggers an HP attack if he gets above 80% of his max Brave during use. He gets a Brave attack plus. Great Aim is still a battery, followed by a buff steal, followed by an HP attack. He now gets a physical attack up buff with it. But that's all he does. He just steals buffs and does damage, and he can't even shave that well. His stats are okay. They're middle of the pack, even with decent passives. And he doesn't do a lot of damage. And he needs to rely on stealing buffs to actually do something, and if you steal the wrong buffs, you can bite yourself in the ass. For example, way back in the day, you could steal the Berserker Armor's Berserk buff and crash the game.
Yeah.
Oops.
I mean, so what I said about Seymour, I said I rated Seymour super low because he over specialized, but he didn't win last place because he had an EX. Well, Balthier doesn't have an EX, and he also over specializes. Out of all the spellers, I think he's the most situational. Ferris will cleanse all and debuff. Vanille will dispel and battery, but Balthier steals the buffs. And more often than not, these enemy buffs are shittier than the buffs that your playable characters can provide. Usually it's like 20, 30, 40% tops. And we have characters that can buff past that. You know, Saz is 60% max brave and attack. Uh, Usually, if you're stealing generic buffs, it's not going to do anything for you. And so he's so situational because he's only good when the enemy has a beneficial unique buff. And it's just there's so very few uses for
The
him.
other thing I want to say is that Balthier is the slowest buff dispeller in the game out of the three of these. Vanille's
Wait,
takes three
really?
buffs from each enemy on an AoE with her 35 CP and second ability. Ferris just removes all buffs, period. Balthier
Oh, that's
takes
what you
one
meant.
buff. Balthier takes one buff with Snatch Shot per enemy, and Great Aim steals 3 buffs from one enemy. Albeit he can steal buffs with his Brave Attack plus, but that's it. So if the enemy buffs themselves to Oblivion like the Sahagins do in Fang EX, it's going to take Balthier several turns to get those buffs off.
But you brought up a good point, which I'm glad you reminded me, is that his Brave Plus does consistently steal buffs at a moderate rate. We don't have the exact percentage, but moderate means between 40% and 60%. So pretty damn good chance. So I guess technically, when it comes to longevity, he can steal buffs every turn. But when the hell has that ever been needed? You want all the buffs gone instantly. You don't want to slowly take them over time. And Mancol says, don't forget it's got to be visible buffs too that
Yeah,
he
I
can
think that's the
steal.
worst part of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Retro Gamer Dad is asking. His steals are guaranteed on Snatch Shot and Great Aim now. The HP or the Brave Attack Plus is not guaranteed. It's a medium chance.
Oh, he says he corrected himself. Now his steals are guaranteed now. Yes, they are guaranteed if you have the weapons. And yeah, so and Mancol says that it's like increasing trend that all the buffs are starting to become invisible because otherwise the spellers would be too strong. Balthier is just in a shitty place. So I
He
give him
also gets a very fast Awakening rework. He's like wave 3 or 4 of the Awakening reworks.
7th place for me.
7th place.
All right.
That's the only thing we agreed on all night.
No, we agreed on Eiko too. Eiko
yeah.
and Balthier were the two anchors that we
So the
both
first and last, you guys were in par.
Yes.
All right. I think that's a very good in-depth coverage of the seventh Awakening Wave. Let's move on to the Heretic missions.
Wait, we
we're
have one
forgetting
more character to go over because
one
Thancred
last
got
one.
his EX, and although he
Oh,
did not
right.
receive an Awakening, he got an Awakening rework, which is going to be the first in a long line of Awakening reworks we're going to see in Global.
Yeah, I'll let you cover the details, but I want to preface it by saying Thancred EX and rework came at the end of the 60 era, where he was considered one of the better DPSs at the end of the 60 era. It is 2 to 3 months early for us. It is a game changer. In terms of single target DPS, he cannot be beaten right now. And you see all the people blowing up on Reddit and stuff. People are doing 70k with him. Decrith, the famous Thancred fan, who's come back to the community, by the way, after a long hiatus, has said that without the EX, he cleared Deuce X with Thancred easily, with no EX. His damage is insane now. His poison is ridiculous. His DPS is he's just a time traveler for sure. Like he can't be topped for single target DPS. And I'll let Kriese give you the details on that.
I'll do the same thing I did with Seymour. I'll break down what changes with his Awakening and then what his EX brings, because his EX brings almost as much as his Awakening rework. Anyways, Awakening rework. One of his passives, debuff, attack, and boost, was originally just debuff boost. He now gets more max brave a little bit, but now he also gets an attack up while enemies are debuffed, which is huge for him. Another thing he gets is one more use of Jugulating Wasp and Shadowfang from this rework, so he's now up to 7 uses of each, which is a total of 14 ability uses to start with. He gets a second way to apply poisons. Brave Attack Plus, which triggers after using Jugulating Wasp, now has a high chance to inflict poison. Not guaranteed, but very high. Jugulating Wasp now dumps Brave if he gets his Brave above 80% of his max Brave upon use, and if the enemy is poisoned, you're using Jugulating Wasp, he's going to hit that. Shadowfang gets a massive damage to does massive damage now rather than just damage. It also can Brave Overflow up to 150% of his max Brave, which means Shadowfang can do a massive amount of damage. I think in Synergy, when I tried the early Heretics right before this started, I was getting to like 35k Brave damage dealt from Shadowfang on a poison target. So he does a lot of damage. Now, his EX weapon, and this is going to seem very complicated because Thancred is going to be the template for future EX weapons. His EX ability, Bahavkarak, I can't pronounce it, Bavakara or something, is a magic attack that deals base 600% of attack potency followed by an HP attack that can Brave Overflow. What it also does, however, is it gives him a special resource called Ninki. Brave Attack and HP Attack now provide 1 Ninki, and Jugulating Wasp and Shadowfang provide 2 Ninki, up to 5 Ninki. When Thancred has more than 3 Ninki, Brave Attack or Brave Attack Plus turns into Brave Attack Plus Ninki, which consumes 3 Ninki but makes his next ability use free. And Bavakara turns into Bavakara Plus, which turns into an 800% of attack potency attack, which can Brave Overflow up to 200% of max Brave. And he also gets an HP attack plus, which guarantees poison for 6 turns, which means he can apply poison on his own without having to use a freaking ability use. Oh my god, this is amazing for him. And he also gets some passive boosts to max Brave and attack on MLB EX weapon. So what this does is it makes Thancred so much better because he can apply his poison so much more easily. He has multiple ways to do it now. He can deal damage without having to waste ability uses. He gets free ability uses if he spends his resources properly. He can go forever and ever and do tons of damage, and he can cap his Brave, and his max Brave's actually decent now. Oh my god, I can't stop talking about him. He's amazing.
I'm going to take that as your end. So to add some notes, this rework in EX came at the end of the 60 era. It is balanced for the end of the 60 era. So Thancred is a guaranteed good investment until Cosmos, which is a good 2-3 months for us at least, depending on how the GL schedule goes, which we'll get to. But this is a guaranteed amazing investment. Single target DPS can't be topped. The poison's ridiculous. Entering a DPS era. I would advise pulling for it, but I can also say you'll probably be okay without it as well, because we do have other strong DPSs coming up. I don't feel like you have to break the bank, but he is a cheat code for the game right now because people are reporting blowing through Heretics and Deuce EX which people are saying that this is the hardest content we've gotten so far. Like, they just, without trying, with Thancred EX, they can get all the rewards, and he's just so overpowered for the current era. Someone on Twitch says, where is it? I need to find the name. I can't find it, but they said, is it like another SAWS 35 early coming? It won't last nearly as long as SAWS 35 because we don't have that much time left in the 60 era. As soon as all the LCs are done and all the LC characters are caught up, we're entering the 70 era. So it won't last as long, and it doesn't enable as many team comps because SAWS made everybody work. Thancred works by himself. But it does bring other characters to the forefront more that you would never have considered, like Ida or Ferris or Sarah, who have the guaranteed poisons that really make him shine. So, I mean, I'm personally trying to pull for it. That's all I've got to say.
I will also add on, I kind of touched on it during my analysis, but just to make it a little statement outside of that, expect more EX weapons like Thancred's going forward rather than Cloud's. Thancred's EX has a lot of power built into it. It turns him from a good character into an amazing character, and that will be the pattern going forward. KUJA EX, Golbez EX, Renoa EX, the popular DPS EX is coming forward, all have that same level of power built into them.
And one more thing for the stream chat is they're saying, here we go. Even without the EX, Thancred with his rework is still an amazing character. He can still work without the EX as an extremely valid character. And Wadabu Wadabai says, the thing about Thancred EX and all EX is coming now is that EXs are a good investment in general compared to 35 CPs.
All right. Do we
And
move
that's
on?
because, sorry, I just wanted to just...
Yeah.
The reason that EXs are a safe investment compared to the 35 CPs is they appear a lot less frequently. I don't know if Thancred's EX has ever come back in Japan as of this point. So if you don't pull it now, you might not see it for a long time.
Newest banner in JP right now. Thancred EX Plus, I think. Go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Sorry that we're taking so much time.
Oh no, it's good. It's good. I know we have a lot to discuss. So maybe a quick touch on the Heretic missions. I mean, people are really used to what Heretic missions are now, and I know Mark is going to cover them next week. So maybe just a little touch on them.
Sure. I've got a mini walkthrough. Kriese, you said you haven't touched it, right? So I guess it's just me right now.
I just did the lower level heretics before we started. I have not seen the harder ones yet. I saw how quirky some of the missions are with what the stipulations are, but beyond that, nothing.
So a lot of people are saying, I think this might be an overreaction because it's only been 24 hours since they dropped. But a lot of the community on Discord and Reddit are crying out saying, this is the hardest content we've ever got in the game. This is harder than Deuce EX, they're saying. But every week we pay tribute to Mancol's threads on Reddit because he always makes a call to arms thread asking people to post videos and their team comps and their score. And it is showing that people are slowly learning the fight and getting the score that they thought was impossible. It is extremely difficult, and I won't lie, it is biased towards synergy because if you doubted our ACO ranking, almost, I think like 99% of the clear comps have ACO in them, at least, as the only synergy character. Some have Vanille, which boosts it, and then Thancred EX, makes a joke of it, and some people are doing it with but there's from what I've seen, there's always a synergy character in it. So it is synergy biased. And I might be a little biased as well because as a longtime player, I had ACO MLB'd, like 6 months ago.
I'm sorry, guys. I just want to take a second. Share89 just said something on Twitch. Says driving at the moment, laughing. If you are indeed driving as you're listening to this on Twitch, please do not chat and drive. This is not safe. Your life is definitely not worth a Twitch post. We're glad you're listening to us, and we hope the enjoyment is, up par and everything, but even if you're doing it by voice or anything, keep your eye on the road and please get wherever you're going safely. So, sorry, just that comment shake me a little bit.
Good message, Pierre. I mean, maybe he's listening hands free, but I'm gonna be optimistic.
Yeah, but it's the chatting part that
Oh
that
yeah,
bothered me.
uh, Retro Gamer Dad says Pierre in dad mode. You can really tell you're a veteran dad now, Pierre. By the way, a little off topic. I saw that really cute picture you put on Twitter about you photobombing your daughter. I thought that was adorable.
Yeah, did you see the one I posted about? She asked me to do her nails, and god
Oh
damn
yeah,
it,
I
is
did
that
see.
hard?
Yeah, Pierre, dad of the year, right here.
No, definitely not. Believe me. I
So
try my best, and that's it.
yeah, okay. Sorry, back on topic
Yeah,
is
sorry.
yeah. What I have seen from all of Mancol's threads, there's two separate threads right now with great advice and team comps that have been helping people on the subreddit, guys. But what I have seen is Aiko is the common link. Almost everyone uses Aiko, and I was able to clear the 100 with the score challenge and the EX easily just by replacing the meta team, replacing Kate Sith with Aiko. So I did Aiko, Lael, um, Beatrix, Pandemonium Summon, Friend Lael. So the same old tired team, just replaced Kate Sith with Aiko, and it's been working wonders. I had to redo it a few times, the 100, because I was
Mino,
I'm,
stop
I'm
talking.
yeah, I'm sorry. I must have hit something, and your mic went quiet.
Oh
Can
no!
yeah,
Where
let
did I
I
me.
cut
can
off
still
then?
hear you fine, but the
Yeah,
chat
it
can't
was
hear
not
you.
in Discord. It was in Twitch. Let me write down the time because I'm gonna edit that thing out.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Where did I cut off from so I can start again?
just start again from after we went back from the fake
Oh,
dad of
okay,
the
okay.
year.
Okay. All right. So I said so there's two threads on the subreddit right now, right? One from Mancall, all detailing strategies, and the common thing I've seen in every single clear group is that Aiko has been a part of it. So Aiko's a huge boon, and I was able to clear the 100 and the EX easily by replacing Kate Sith in the meta team with Aiko. So my team was Aiko, Beatrix, Lael, Pandemonium Summon with Friend Lael. It's nothing new. It's still an easy meta team clear. I just had to replace one of the batteries with a superior battery with synergy, and that's why I fell in love with Aiko so much. But it's I did the 100 a few tries. It wasn't too difficult, but what I learned is you have to be more aggressive in the first two waves. Trick to this Heretics is the first two waves than the last two waves. And what I did was I split all the abilities into perfect fours. So, for example, Lael used energy gains and two. What are they called, Kriese? The first ability?
Force? No, that's the debuff.
I
I
know.
don't
I
know. I
always
don't have
forget.
an
I always
MLB
call it
Lael,
four.
and I never use it.
But basically, I split the ability uses. So two of each ability for Lael each round. Aiko was two smites a round and one HP regen a round, etc., etc. I split it evenly, and Ultimate Weapon, whatever. It's just a tanky fight that you need to sink Brave damage into. The second one, the Golem, is a big threat. That's probably the one I reset on most because depending on who the Golem chooses, every attack delays a turn. He has like Stonera, some physical attack that knocks turns back. Really bad RNG. I feel like that really messes up your team comp. The common strategy is a summon on wave 3. It's a Lamia and two mannequins. If you kill the mannequin, she revives them. The Lamia Queen, we're familiar with this from Ferris's event. So what most people have been doing is they'll call their Lael summon and Lael friend Pandemonium summon and burn the queen down before she gets a turn and then kill the mannequins. So that wave should theoretically only take one or two turns outside of summon. And then the last one is a joke. The lowest HP, the lowest damage. The only thing you have to watch out is don't let the AoE break you. But otherwise, it seems like when it first dropped, everyone complained that this Heretic was a ridiculously difficult fight and impossible, and Square Enix was forcing everyone to wail. But it seems like in just 24 hours, a lot of people are finding strategies and completing it no problem. And like, I don't like, this is a good message. You shouldn't have knee-jerk reactions to content. And I do like this fight because it made me run it a few times to optimize my run more and more. The only reasons I failed was because I was too conservative with my abilities and didn't go aggressive enough in the first few waves, as you'll see, Kriese, I'm sure, coming up in
Yeah.
the next week.
I also want to just throw my 2 cents in without having done this, but the last Heretic event we had, I feel like the situation was similar, except people actually bought into the synergy for that because it was Lael, it was Papa Limo, it was Voniax, and it was Setzer. All of them were in the Last Awakening wave, so everyone went for those synergy because they knew how good those were. And so the people who had those synergy characters crushed the EX, they crushed level 100, whereas people like me who did not have as much as the synergy wave had much more trouble with it. And I think this is a repeat of that event where people
Yes.
don't have the same synergy, and now they're saying, "Ooh, I don't have the synergy. Now I'm having more trouble." Whereas I'm probably gonna have an easier time this wave because I have Thancred and Eiko. Yeah, that was it. That was all I wanted to say.
Although us veterans complain that Eiko was featured like 8 times in a year, the last time she was featured is pre-awakening, so that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, if you are newer, if you started after Awakening waves started coming around, you probably don't have her weapons. But if you're an older player, if you started in the summer, then probably you've gotten her weapons somewhere along the way because she was on a lot of banners for a little while.
Yeah, and I want to. This brings me to a great segue. First, Final Character 7 says, "Don't forget, Ego is about to be featured again on the Maria banner coming up on Wednesday, so there's plenty of chances to get her." But also, it brings me up to the point of Deuce EX and this Heretics. Every time this dropped, the community has gotten up in arms about difficulty. And the same thing happened when Chaos difficulty and Cosmos difficulty dropped in JP. Everyone immediately says this is too hard, it's unfair. But keep in mind that we're seeing proof, especially in GL, that you have the event lasts for at least 2 weeks, and there's several characters coming out in those 2 weeks that make the event a lot easier. People were complaining about Deuce EX difficulty, but all of a sudden you have 7 to 8 new characters you can use for it that are actually very good for it. You know, like we said, Dekrith used Thancred without EX, just awakened, and he was able to clear it. And you have all these other characters. Same with the EX. We have a lot of characters coming up. We have Maria, we have Agrius, we have possibly Palom, I think, in the time frame, with all those awakenings and EXs. Don't judge it by the initial difficulty. You have 2 weeks for a reason. You don't have to clear it day one. I'm sure by day 10 or so, you'll have a lot better tools if you've pulled at least once within that frame. And but you're right, Kriese. I do think there is some synergy bias to this event.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to say about the Heretics, and Mark can talk more about them next week. And you'll also have Macnol's call to arms breakdown at that point, so we can actually see how it pans out.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's next, Pierre?
I can't hear Pierre.
Pierre, we can't hear you.
This is not a good show.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was muted. So we had an email from Jacob that was asking a couple of good questions, and just to address it real quick, he says, "Are you concerned with all the characters that are or will become available that there will be a negative impact on the game due to character pool dilution, similar to the other Final Fantasy mobile titles?"
Actually, Pierre, this is a perfect question for you because you played FFRK for so long, and that was a big complaint about FFRK, right? That they had way too many characters coming out too fast.
Well, just too many characters. Point.
Yeah. So, what do you think is going to happen if we get. Do you think we are at the too many characters part? And do you think of a way to fix it?
Well, I'm not sure. The thing is, in FFRK, all of the characters were able to use a lot of the same abilities, basic abilities. In DFFOO, they are much more specialized. So if they square play their cards right, they could tune up certain fights, kind of like the Heretics, so that everybody can have a turn or a shot at something. But unfortunately, with a game series as rich as Final Fantasy, we are at some point going to hit the part where we just jump the shark and there's too many characters. FFRK got stupid when they started adding characters that like were seen like once or something in a game. And again, I know I'm a big fan of General Leo, and I'm going against uh, my own opinion saying that, but it's kind of what we're moving into slowly in the FFO as well. So yeah, they are diluting the ability. It's just that I think that in DFFO they might have a little more room to play around because the characters having only two abilities plus their EX are much more specialized. So
I also want to chime in that anyone who's been playing for any period of time now has probably noticed that we go through waves where some characters are flavor of the month because
true.
they just got a new weapon, or their synergy on a recent event, or they just got a new awakening, or they got a rework. And that means at any given time, the whole cast is not usable. What we find is that it's probably about 24 characters that can reasonably be considered to be used for current content, which means even though more characters might be added, not all of them are actually in the ethos of being usable and brought to fights most of the time. So I think it has the advantage where we're getting those characters, they're getting some time to shine, but we're also getting characters that become dead after 3 weeks in some cases, like King will be.
Aurora Dark says strongly disagree. FFRK has too many characters. The beauty of the game is that you have so many viable teams that the game could be completely dead with fewer characters. Do you have anything to say about that, Pierre? I have no experience with FFRK.
Well, maybe FFRK has more of elemental teams that that you can bring around due to all of the special weapons that they get. I forget what's the name. I don't like it. There's the overdrive
Chain
and
soul breaks.
yeah, yeah, all the soul breaks. So you get more of a chance to really have specialized teams in there. But at the end of the day, you look at the meta, and it's always going to be the same handful of characters that you're going to bring around to most of the fights, unless it's really specialized and highly script around certain characters or certain abilities or weaknesses. So there's
Yeah,
always a meta. That's what it ends up being. There's always a meta that's around what's the newest character or weapon. So
the only thing I can say is that all these games as a service games like MMOs and gotchas have a expiration date. I don't think any of them last forever, and they
that
just
they
try to
just
keep it.
can't.
Yeah, they just try to keep it as interesting as they can before they jump the shark. Uh, I mean, FFRK is close to that point. I think DFO will eventually get to that point. They did an interesting thing in FFRK that could work here is elemental teams. Make more characters viable for a little bit. But who knows? I guess we just have to see with time, right?
Yep. All right. So hopefully, Jacob, that answers your first question. Moving on to the second question. He says, I managed to get a dupe or on EX. Should EX dupes be used to limit break like normal dupes, or should they be saved until EX awakening? So what does he do with it?
We talked about last episode how it works, and we'll get into more detail when it comes in GL. But the JP has a new system of EX weapon awakenings. Technically, saving a new second copy will give you another bonus sphere, as we talked about last episode, but that's like saying double the awakening requirement for 2 characters. It's up to you. I personally would not save it though. I would rather have the 4 power stones straight up. How about you, Kriese?
It's too far into the future to really think about for me, and my personal opinion is the same as you. Just use it to limit break, because Orin EX in Japan right now does not have a plus version, which means it's a year out, if not more.
Yeah, so it's going to crowd your inventory for no really good reason, whereas you could use these 4 power stones to get another weapon stronger.
All us hosts are in agreement, but Wadabu says I would save the dupes in the event that the material the bonus sphere for the dupe is ridiculously broken. He says 4 power stones is not worth that trade-off. And Atari Struggle says I agree with him. So we have differing opinions. It really comes down to personal preference, I think.
So, sorry that doesn't really answer your question. Third and last question, and by the way, these questions were sent to us last week before the show to kupo at tccpodcast.com, but unfortunately they somehow went in the spam folder, and I caught it while searching for something else, so that's why we're addressing them this week. But again, if you want to mail us your questions, you can do so at kupo at tccpodcast.com. Third question, also another question I was thinking about. With the EX pity system in place, how would you all rank the upcoming meta shapers, assuming you will not be able to get all EX weapons? Who should we prioritize from the following? Paladin Cecil, Golbez, Rinoa, Quistis, Sephiroth, KUJA, Wayne. Give me your top 2.
That is perfect question, because in our host chat, we've been debating this constantly, and we all have different opinions. So I think it works out really well. I forgot what Mark says, so he can defend himself next week. But I know we disagreed. Oh, Mark said Quistis and Renoa are his 2
I'm
because
not
he's a big
surprised
FF8.
about Rinoa.
He's a big FF8 fan, and Quistis and Renoa are very strong, reliable characters for the entirety of the 60 era. I differed. I said Lena and Vayne are my 2 that I'm definitely saving for this summer. And I know very few people agree with me. Lena and Vayne for me. Vayne is known to be a strong DPS, and Lena, I think it's invaluable to be able to ignore debuffs. How about you, Kriese?
Again, I don't know enough about Japan to make an educated
Oh,
assessment of who I would
we're
mark,
not
but
educated.
I would
We're
say
just
Renoa
Yeah, we're
and
not
my...
educated.
Did you hear me? I said Renoa and Vayne.
Oh,
Renoa
sorry.
being the peak of that first DPS meta wave, and Vayne being the apex of it, I guess.
They're so far away, though. Are you gonna just hoard 150k gems until August?
I mean, I'm not going to just focus on those 2. I'm probably going to be pulling in between. I already have a full KUJA kit. I have a full Sephiroth kit. I'll be throwing tickets for their EX weapons, but I'm not going to invest heavily in them. I might throw some things at other characters, but I have not decided yet because I am uneducated in what they do right now.
All right. My answer
But
will.
again, based on the prioritization he's asking for, Renoa and Vayne would be top for me. And then I don't know who else after that.
Cool. My answer would be Golbez because he's a total badass, and I absolutely have no idea what his weapon actually do. I mean, I saw a video when it was released in Japan, but that's so long ago that EX were not in the game, so I might have been just easily impressed by the numbers I was seeing, and I'm actually curious to see see Renoa finally get in the game. So these are my answers for what it's worth.
Okay, and I guess we're nearing the end here. I wanted to bring up some topics that we'll get to next week, because the next 2 weeks are pretty dead weeks, guys. So we're gonna have a lot of discussion. But I know that the community wanted to know the damn it, I'm losing train of
Current
thought
state
now.
of the game.
Yeah, that you're right. There's a lot to talk about: the current state of the game, the pace of GL, and get what getting early reworks means, but we're running out of time. We'll have plenty of time in the future. So oh, and Shara wanted you to know, Pierre, that when he typed that, he was in a drive-through for food. So he wasn't driving on the road while watching the stream or texting.
We just like our listeners alive. It's much more fun to talk with them that way.
Mm.
All right. So next week, look out for more discussions. Looking ahead, no early KUJA. So we're back to the Japan Order release of Lost Chapters. Because I believe KUJA was one of the characters that they had a vote on, so he was released earlier.
KUJA was released really early for us, and then they shuffled our whole Lost Chapter order up to make up for that. Like, I think Maria came after Palom for us, and now she's before for Lost Chapter order, so the whole order is going to be different from what we saw with original events.
Yeah, and sorry, and the chat's reminding me right now. The last thing I want to say, not a question of the week because we have some piled up, but something to think about is the general consensus, and I want your opinion on this, Pierre. General consensus in the community is that they sped up content in GL and are now slowing down because they purposely wanted us to line up with JP. So, for example, Balthier just got an awakening in GL and he just got his EX in JP. Or Agrius is coming up with her release, and in JP she just got her 70 awakening. They're saying there's a conspiracy theory that I don't agree with, saying that GL purposely got us to a point where we're going to look at JP having the same characters getting the rework at the same time and get hyped up to pull. I think that's insanely crazy, but what do you guys think?
I completely disagree with that sentiment. I think it just happened that they were able to speed us up far enough that we ended up on this weird staggered schedule. And it doesn't make sense. Agrius got her 70 awakening 2 weeks ago in Japan now, and we still don't have her. She's 2 weeks away. That's a 4-week gap. We're not riding that hype train anymore.
Any thoughts, Pierre?
I don't have a tinfoil hat anywhere, so I'm just going to use this panda as a tinfoil hat. I think that conspiracy is absolute total garbage. Uh, it, the only thing we can accuse Square of doing is that they might have misplanned a little bit the um, the pace of the game, because we went from a normal pace, then it went up, down, it was dead for about a whole month. Then during the holiday, it sped up, and I don't think it's slow. I think they're just bringing it back at a normal pace right now. But
Yeah,
everybody's just freaking out.
and final character brings up a point that we were going to touch about, but just briefly, we'll talk about it more next week. He's saying everyone's saying that GL schedule is slowing down, even slower than Japan's ever been, because we only get one character event this month. Everyone's panicking. Before we get to the roundtable discussion of that next week, I just want to say I want to remain optimistic. Maybe they're slowing down this month so they can give us a shit ton next month, just like they did the month before anniversary. Maybe they'll speed up and it'll even out. I think we should have some faith.
Maybe there's going to be an announcement coming out of PAX. We'll see. Probably
Square has
not.
shown us that they're trying to surprise us every step of the way. I would not be surprised if there's a surprise event in the middle of the month that is not on the calendar, and bam, that fills the gap that people are freaking out about. Who knows?
You would not be surprised if there's a surprise, so they're going to fail at surprising you?
I will not be surprised if something not on the calendar shows up this month. I do not know what that surprise will be because I've been really bad at guessing surprises. If you look at my Thank Grid analysis post, I call myself out on that. I've been really bad at it in the past.
All right, so that covers the no early KUJA. Just a shout out to our DFFOO content creator friends. There's the Broadway saying who's still adapting to the life as a new father, and I think he got a new job, and he's just all over the place, the poor guy, but he's doing his very best. His streams are awesome. We're going to link him and everybody I'm about to mention in the show notes. There's always Manta, Quetzalma, content creators on Reddit. There's Kriese, Macnol, Manta. Thank you guys for all of your hard work and all of your reviews and write-ups and everything. Chris, 52, 50, 58, 52, 21. Yeah, really, that was like the first thing that the easiest name you could find, my man. Joseph and Sidela. So all of you guys, great DFFO content creators, thank you so much for what you do for the community. Just a reminder that we do have a Discord server. We didn't talk about it during the show much, but the link will be in the show notes. You're more than welcome to join us. It's a great community. Other than that, or email, well, actually, I'll do that in a second for the rest. Upcoming events, we have Mariah LC on April 4th, Palom LC on April 15th. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. The Heretic Quest Co-op are dropping on April 1st, and the 8th wave of Awakening should be in about 1 month. So
I
anything
want to imagine you intentionally skipped Agrius there. She's dropping on the 8th of April.
I did not intentionally skip anything. I was going on with Mark's outline, and it was not in there. So I'm just terrible.
So Mark is the reason that
Oh yeah, no,
Agrius was forgotten.
and he's not there to defend himself. So of course I'm gonna blame Mark. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Sorry, I'm cutting in and out, but everyone in chat is asking for a short one sentence preview of Agrius. Do you have anything, Kriese, really quick?
No, I have not started yet. I started working on Maria's Awakening before Thancred dropped, and I had to drop everything to get that written.
Then, really quick, everyone says that Beatrix was a more offensive version of Agrius. Agrius is going to be a more defensive version of Beatrix.
There we go.
There we go. That was your one sentence review of Agrias. We will never talk about her again on this show. Can you imagine? All right, and yeah, that pretty much covers it. So, anything else you guys want to drop real quick before we wrap this one up?
Kriese, you got anything?
No, nothing special. You can find me on the Reddit under the name Xerink. You'll find me in the Discord, the Crystal Chronicles Discord, under the name Kriese, aka Xerink. And otherwise, you just have to ping me, and I'll probably be annoyed, but respond.
Yeah, look forward to the next week. The only thing we're going to have to talk about is Heretic co-ops and Agrius. So we're going to be filling a lot of discussion that we missed this week. And the week after that, it's going to be just Maria LC, and that's it. So, the next 2 weeks will be interesting. Look forward to it.
All right. So again, we're at tccpodcast.com. All of our links, social media links, and everything else is there. Questions, comment, you can send those to kupo at tccpodcast.com. This was episode number 48, recorded on March 28, 2019 at twitch.tv/thecrystalchronicles. So thank you for being there. Have a good one, and we will see you next week.